Hello everyone, it's great to see you. And before we get started, I'd like to say that if you like this video, please like the video, and would love for you to subscribe, join this little community of mine, and let's chat about games. Would love to have you around for that. I'd like to talk about Max Payne 3, developed and published by Rockstar Games back in 2012-ish. For PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. I also have this game for PlayStation 3, which was my original copy, but one of the things I've been doing recently is buying up a lot of Xbox and Xbox 360 games. I have a Series X, and so I am taking advantage of the backwards compatibility program, which has given me a lot of time to play some of these titles and get a feel for what exactly was better about the PS3 version, what exactly is better about the Xbox 360 version, especially with some of those backwards compatibility enhancements. Been having a lot of fun. And so I recently replayed this game, which I was very excited to do. First thing I like to do is show off the case here. Very nice Max Payne looking cover. And we have the back as well. You know, one of the things I thought was pretty interesting about Max Payne 3 is that the overall kind of design and character and visual feeling of it is very different from the first two. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here shortly. On the inside, we have both a single player and multiplayer disc, and then you also have, I believe, what is an install disc? I didn't actually look. Oh, it just says single player disc 2. And then, of course, we also get a booklet here, one of the last generations to provide these. And inside, nothing too particularly interesting. There's a little bit of background on who exactly Max is, which I always liked when I see this in these booklets. And I also thought that it was pretty interesting when I was reading through this, just how much they really want you to understand exactly how this game is going to work. They tell you a lot about instructionally what to be looking out for, what to do. They tell you how the gunplay works. I also I thought this was pretty funny. I guess they just kind of ran out of ideas of what to put in here, and they just put a picture of Max looking like a badass. So, anyway. Now, I think one of the interesting things about this game is something I said right at the beginning, which is the game was both developed and published by Rockstar Games. And what would be surprising is if you look at Max Payne 1 and 2, you'll notice that they were developed by Remedy Entertainment, who is still around and making fantastic games, whether that's Alan Wake, Control, Quantum Break. I mean, they're really out there building some very interesting titles and very much performing successfully through it. Now, one thing that's interesting about Remedy is they've always been an independent studio, though at times they will partner with studios in order to make some of their games. And Max Payne was a series that was that. Take-Two Interactive had originally helped Remedy publish and supported the development of Max Payne 1. And they were really hopeful to get the series off of Remedy's hands. And so they bought it, I think, for $50 million, is what I might have read. And anyways, they purchased the Max Payne IP from them, and one of the asks of Remedy essentially was, "Hey, let's do one more Max Payne game, The Fall of Max Payne. It'll give us the opportunity to conclude his story, have a send off for Max, and put a nice little bow on everything," which is something that does kind of happen in Max Payne 2. So to get Max Payne 3 is interesting. And so the big question kind of running through my mind there is, okay, how does this game live up to the enjoyment that is playing Max Payne 1 and 2? So just to finish that story, they sold it, and of course Rockstar now had the IP and they wanted to do something with it, and so here we were. And now it's been 12 years since they've done anything with Max Payne. So that's a little bit of background on it. The game takes place, as far as its plot goes, about 9 years following Max Payne 2. Max is an alcoholic. He's addicted to painkillers. which is kind of in line with his character all the way throughout. and an incident in a bar caused him to essentially have to flee the United States, more or less. And he's working as a private security contractor at the time for a wealthy, well-respected businessman, Rodrigo Branco, in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And a little bit of drama here and a little bit of drama there, and Rodrigo's wife, Fabiana, gets kidnapped, and Max goes on a adventure to, save Fabiana, but it leads him down a very dark hole of conspiracy, betrayal, and there's a lot happening here in the story. And so I'll kick it off right there, just talking about the story. The game flies by pretty quick. There's, I think, 14 or 15 chapters, and I feel like the game took me maybe 9-10 hours to play through. And as a private security contractor, Max is dealing with all sorts of drama, not just specifically related to Fabiana, but all of Branco's family, whether it's his siblings, his sons, his wife, their wives, so on and so forth. And the game takes you through all these fun environments, in desolate environments at times, whether you're down in the favelas or in a nightclub or on a rooftop hanging from a helicopter. The story is really engaging in the way in which it tells itself, which is Max is monologuing throughout the game all of these stories in kind of a flashback way as he explains exactly what's happening to him at the time. In the monologues, as someone who's played this game a few times now, can get a little bit in the way of me having an enjoyment of the game, from the lens of you can't skip them. I've heard them 100 times, and now here I have to hear them again. But I just wish they would have added like a little skip button somewhere so I could just jump straight to the gameplay, because the gameplay itself is so fantastic, and we'll talk about that shortly. But Max will monologue. He'll tell you through a form of flashbacks a little bit about what's going on to him in the moment. And not only is this put into the cutscenes alone, but really throughout the game, Max is kind of narrativizing what's happening. And I really enjoyed that, particularly because his character has so many one-liners and funny things to say throughout, that are cheesy and funny at times. And so I really enjoyed the quips that Max continuously delivered throughout the game. So that was a lot of fun. But the game is very personal. Max is not just out there saving Fabiana or saving Branco's family or enacting revenge as necessary. But he's really on a character transformation journey as well. There's a number of things that Max will kind of do to himself that really reinforce him becoming a whole new person. And some of those things are like shaving his head, eliminating drinking from his habits. But we also see a lot of depth in terms of Max's character and how he is experiencing a lot of the emotions and experiencing a lot of the, trauma. I think really trauma is the best way to describe what Max has. But that doesn't deter him from being a complete badass all the time. And so I want to talk a little bit about the gameplay. So the gameplay is very tight. You play, of course, as Max. It's a third-person shooter. And you essentially go from section to section in which enemies will pile into a room or will already be there, and you got to go in guns blazing and take them out. And I really love how fluid a lot of the animations are for Max. He's allowed to carry 3 weapons. You can have 2 sidearms and then a main weapon, an assault rifle, a shotgun, or something like that. And they picked some of this up in Red Dead Redemption 2. But I always liked, when I first played this game, if you had your assault weapon and then you switched to a pistol or whatnot. Max will pull the pistol out, but he'll still be holding in his hand the assault weapon down near his hips or whatever. And I always found that to be really impressive, that the game was not only thoughtful in terms of what a person could realistically carry on them, but also in the way in which it presents on their body, as opposed to Uncharted, where Drake just kind of pulls an assault rifle out of his Henley shirt, right? Max really does have kind of some structure to his character, which I found impressive. Or I love little things like if you're running around the environment, you find a gun you want to pick up. If you're running full force, Max will do a somersault and he'll grab the gun in the process. The gameplay really has this John Woo style of shooting combat. So the game encourages guns blazing fighting. So you'll run into an environment, you can dive into the air, and it'll put you in complete slow motion, where in those moments you can take out enemies and you can shoot them. And then of course you like land on the ground and it'll speed back up, and it's just complete chaos at all times. And I really loved how high adrenaline the experiences of the gunplay here. I don't think it's been replicated in many games. And there's also some more modern mechanics that I don't remember the first two Max Paynes having, such as there's some auto aim features which you can take off if you'd like. There's also cover-based systems, so you'll hide behind cover and you can shoot over a wall or whatever to take out enemies too. But I think the game and the design of the world really engages you not to use those mechanics too particularly, and to stay moving and to be diving around and building up your slow-mo meter so that you can slow down time and take out enemies. Because the enemies are pretty smart. When given the opportunity to, they will attempt to flank you and to get on your position and make it very difficult for you to get away from them. Especially if you play in the harder difficulties, or they might use grenades to flush you out of a position and so on and so forth. And so I really did enjoy that. And so that's most of the game in its core gameplay. Is you'll be walking around, you'll find yourself in these shooting galleries where you're flying through the air and bullets are going everywhere. And just the feeling of it is so fun. I've not felt an action-packed game quite like Max Payne 3, I will be honest. It is really enjoyable, and I can tell that Rockstar Games really put a lot of love into developing this game. And so while they haven't done anything with the franchise for many years, the input that they made for this game is incredibly impressive, and I did enjoy it quite a bit. Throughout, too, outside of the walking and shooting, you'll oftentimes find yourselves in these slow-mo moments where Max is flying through the air in a boat shooting enemies, or he's grabbed onto a rope and he's swinging down to the bottom floor and there's enemies everywhere and you're shooting them. And I always really enjoyed when the game took the opportunity to really up the ante and make the action feel dramatic and just engaging in so many ways. And so I was really impressed with that. This is a game that has, though I've played it many times, I can always find myself a reason to revisit because of just how fun it is and just how exclusive the gameplay is to Max Payne 3. And we talked a little bit about navigating the world. The world design is really impressive. These are all linear chapter to chapter missions, very classic kind of 2000s, early 2010s title in this third-person action space. And I did really enjoy a lot of the variety. Again, I was saying there's some nightclubs. There's a really cool mission where you're in a football stadium. You're in the jungles. You're at the favelas. You're in a building that's literally collapsing and falling apart. Another one that's burning. And so I really loved that through the world design, they were able to make you feel like you really are in this like John Woo action movie, and really gave you a lot of opportunities to immerse yourself in that through the game. So I did really enjoy that quite a bit. The original score here in the game was made by the band Health, and all of the original score is quite fantastic. And Health themselves, they really said, hey, we wanted to capture a soundtrack that really speaks to Max's identity, while also giving it that little flavor of Health in there. And so I really enjoyed the original score. I also really enjoyed a lot of the music that they picked for certain moments throughout the game, such as in the nightclub scenes or up on a rooftop party. The game really spoke to this party aesthetic that you would imagine like high wealth, affluential people to be spending all of their time at. Especially in a world like Sao Paulo, Brazil, where Rockstar spent a long part of the development cycle just learning about the culture, learning about the dynamics between politics, the police, the local communities and residents. And Brazil for me, because of this game, really has this reputation of just being a wild, crazy city of some kind. And this is something that I think Rockstar really excels at, because the Grand Theft Auto series speaks to some of those ideas of city building. And it was really cool that they were able to capture that in a linear sense and really focus a narrative around some of those feelings as well. And so I was really impressed with the way in which the music speaks not only to Max's internal battles, his internal feelings that Health really puts on the stage, and also shows the external world around him and the things happening, which is this crazy party culture, loud at times, and really impressive there. One of the things I would say that didn't really stick out to me a whole lot, we're playing an action-packed shooter game, but one of the things I didn't even think to talk about really on the sound was the design of the weapons, and just kind of thinking through and trying to remember that. I don't think the weapon sounds are particularly impressive from the lens of, if you have this big shotgun, you'd expect like a huge punch when you shoot it, or I would have liked for you get like these small machine pistols or Mac 10s and stuff. I would have liked for their sounds to be a little more guttural, a little more metal in the way in which they shoot, and I don't think they sounded particularly impressive. And that's such a small gripe on the things that I'm describing, but just something that came to my mind here in the moment. And this game, of course, is from 2012, so it's about 13 years old now. Graphically, the game continues to hold up, especially if you're playing a backwards compatible version. If I recall, the game was running at a smooth 60 frames, I want to say. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't remember too particularly well. But the game continues to look good. The facial animations on all the characters are very well animated to this day, and the way in which characters move is impressive too. And when we look at the variety of environments that Rockstar Games has made for these titles, or for this title, excuse me, continues to be impressive. And I did like kind of graphically what this game looked like. It's not going to be a PlayStation 5 game, current gen. I'm not looking for that out of the title. But for something from 2012, I look at it and I say, wow, this game is still very meticulous in the way in which it looks and the way in which they designed it. And so overall, just very impressive. And so to conclude on my thoughts, the story is pretty engaging and entertaining, and it's interesting to see what is going on in Max Payne's life following the second game. And it ends with a nice little bow, maybe? I did really enjoy the story. The gameplay is fantastic. I've not played a game quite like Max Payne 3 in the action department. There are a couple of games that tried to do it. I think Stranglehold is one worth checking out if you are interested. But they've not quite captured that flavor that Max Payne 3 really does. The game and its chapters are really built in a nice way for you to go from point to point and just enjoy a nice 8 to 10 hour gaming experience. It sounds great. It looks quite great to this day. Continues to impress me in some ways in that department. And so overall, it's just a game you have to own. If you like Rockstar games, if you like shooter games, Max Payne 3 is the one that needs to really be in your library. I now own 2 copies of this, and on both platforms, I think it's been a stellar opportunity for me to play, revisit the title, and so on. And so I recommend that you do the same. Whew. Lots of words for Max Payne 3. I'm curious to know how you feel about Max Payne 3. Did you play it? Do you like it or not? If you don't like it, I'd really like to hear from you, because I'd love to just understand for what reasons that might be. But all in all, I would like to thank you for watching the video and tuning in. Again, if you like the video, please like the video. Would love for you to subscribe, join the community. And otherwise, look forward to talking with you about another game here in the near future. Until then, take care. See you later.